Hey everybody, welcome to this Pink Cloud. I am DJ Kelly Reverb. We are a show that is about multiple pathways to recovery, mental health, all that good stuff. Be sure, like, subscribe, and then if you're on YouTube, you can watch us. Spotify, you can watch us, all that good stuff. Be sure, comment, and blah, blah, blah. I'm excited to have this young man. He is a friend of the show, and I consider him a friend of mine. It has been a long time coming since he has been on the show, but with his fantastic energy, everybody give it up for Ricky Vasquez.
Hey, thank you, Kelly.
How are you, man?
I am doing great. I am a lot better than I was a few years ago. Yeah,
Okay.
life is like my headspace is better. Business is definitely going well. So like I'm really happy at this stage in my life.
Well, and I am glad to hear that as well because I know there was some concern in the recovery community for a while because and this is why I think this episode is so important is that they call it recovery, not recovered. You
Right.
know, and it's not always a straight line for everyone, and it's not always, hey, I got sober and now it's unicorns and rainbows.
Right,
I
right.
mean, there's real life shit that goes on, and you've had some real life shit that goes on, and
Oh
in the
my God.
past, I mean, we're gonna unpack it all. So, I just have to remind you that the episode is an hour, so,
Oh
but
my God. I mean,
but
I
for
can go
the
on and on and on.
right.
We'll
We're
keep
gonna
it to an
do the
hour.
the Ricky Vasquez mini series. But anyway, so yeah, why don't you give the people that might not know who you are the backstory a little bit, and then we can kind of take it from there.
Okay, so the backstory. Wait, let me go way back to like
Okay.
the root of what I think are my issues. I grew up in an environment where I did not feel that I was worth much or that I had any value.
Okay.
I was, people walked all over me, so to speak. I was dismissed, so on and so forth. But at the very beginning, and I don't know how old I was, but I was maybe a baby or a toddler. I might have been like
Hmm.
maybe 3 years old, but um, at one point, I my mom and my dad lived in different places. He had an apartment, my mom had the house. So
Okay.
my
And where
dad would
where
pick.
where were you living at this time?
True. This is Laredo, so on the border
Okay,
with Mexico.
Laredo, Texas. Yeah, yeah,
Hell
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, Laredo.
Is that by McAllen or is it no?
No,
I
no. So
can't.
it's
No,
like maybe three
Laredo's
out. Yeah, 3 hours north of McAllen, on the border.
okay.
So like it's a triangle. So you have like San Antonio, and then you have Laredo, and then you have the Valley.
Right.
So
Okay. All right.
Laredo is like where Corpus Christi is, except on the border
Gotcha.
instead of the Gulf. So,
Gotcha.
but
Okay.
yeah. So okay. So
Now I know.
obviously, so let's go back to that. So, I remember being in the bathroom, and my
Mm-hmm.
dad's friend had walked in. I was in the tub with my little rubber ducky, and for some reason, the next thing I know is
Mm-hmm.
I am on the bed,
Mm-hmm.
and this, I guess my dad's friend or whatever, was molesting me. The
Mm.
sad part of that is that my dad
Mm-hmm.
was present and he watched, or he was watching.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember
Mm-hmm.
him touching me at all, but
Right.
that was the situation. I remember. I don't know if I couldn't talk because I was in shock, or because I was just
Mm-hmm.
crying, or because maybe I was just a baby or a toddler. I don't remember. I don't know how old I was,
Right.
but
Okay.
I do remember crying and crying and wanting him to stop. But at the same
Mm.
time, that's when I learned what sexual pleasure was, so to speak, that I wanted
Mm-hmm.
that sensation that I was feeling as things were happening. So
Ah.
it seems. not oxymoronic or ironic, but
Mm.
that's where I started with the whole medication with the sex addiction, and we'll get to that. But
Okay.
let's fast
Okay.
forward. So from that point on, and now as an adult, I realized that those who were supposed to love me were the ones essentially abusing me and not protecting me. Um,
Right.
so in my first 17 years of life, and I'm not kidding,
Mm-hmm.
I lived in
Mm-hmm.
fear every day. So
Okay.
one, whether someone's gonna find out that my dad was present, or oh my gosh,
Right.
he would tell me to be quiet if he picked me up from school. That I was in kinder at that point.
Mm-hmm.
That and then I remember having that anxiety as time went
Mm.
on. My oldest brother, he was a raging person. He was mad at the world. He always dismissed me. He always fought. I was fighting every day, beating up my sister.
Right.
My other brother threatening me. I was too effeminate. I was gay. I was
Right.
too weak, so to speak. And so as time went on, as he grew older, he got the
Mm-hmm.
strength that he would fight with my brother-in-law, kick my sister-in-law's rear, even fought my
Yeah.
dad at times. So it was
Mm-hmm.
really scary.
Wow.
My
A
grandma was
tumultu
there.
it was a tumultuous beginning, to say
Oh,
the least.
oh my God. And fear every
Well,
day.
and I wonder if you stop and think, did he also have the same molestation, PTSD, and he acted out differently, you know?
Right. So, and I'm going to be all over the place because that's the way my mind works. But so
Right.
I had a few years ago, I was with a CSAT, a certified sex addiction therapist, and he
Okay.
and I may concluded that maybe my something had happened to my dad. He definitely had been through some traumatic events, and we'll get to that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
so my brother's fighting, beating everyone. I had my grandma. My grandma was my protector. She was essentially my caretaker.
Mm-hmm. Right.
My dad didn't live with us, and my mom was always working. And when she would get home, she was asleep, too tired, or maybe she was depressed. I don't know. But
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time, my brother was no longer at the house because now it's evening and nighttime and he's out with his friends. So my mom never necessarily had the chance to protect me from like everything that was going on in the house.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I'm doing that. I'm afraid of everyone, everything. My brothers, especially the oldest one, was involved in some of the trade, and I saw some things that I shouldn't have. And anyway, but
Right.
so then as I'm reaching, puberty,
Mm-hmm.
my of course, my siblings always call me names, faggot. You're not supposed to be doing this and
Right.
that.
So at that point, had you identified as a gay man?
You know what? It's not necessarily my fault because I was a child, but
Uh-huh.
right now, like up until a few years ago, I was kind of
Mm-hmm.
blaming myself because now knowing that I'm gay, I
Mm-hmm.
took myself to that point and I was like, well, maybe I already knew that I was gay and I was interested and curious, definitely, about what this guy's
Right.
member looked like, right? And so
Right. Yeah.
I would say it was my fault, so to speak, because I peaked and that's how it started. Um,
Yeah. But I
but
mean,
no, I
but the
mean,
thing is yeah. I mean, you're a kid, and it's a effed up situation,
very much so.
and that sucks that you had to put that on yourself. That it's because I'm this.
Right.
That's horrible. That's a
It is
horrible way to,
horrible.
and that's a horrible way to grow up, man. With that
Yeah.
in your head as your as your beginning narrative, Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not kidding when I say every single day I
Yeah.
lived in fear, anxious written.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't cry because if I cried, I would be called, pinche joto or boys don't cry,
Right.
stuff like that.
Right. Hmm.
And then, I would walk a certain way and my brother would make fun of me, sometimes my sister, but not a whole lot. Um, but even to the point where like I couldn't necessarily talk because I spoke like a girl, especially when I spoke
Right.
English when I grew
Mm.
older. But I remember at the same time, it was not only my family. There was one time I was in kindergarten and I got home And I
Mm-hmm.
remember putting on my mom's shoes. It had, short heels, and put on a dress.
Mm-hmm.
And I was walking around, the perimeter of my house, right? And it turns
Mm-hmm.
out that somehow, I guess my neighbor saw me. And then the following
Mm-hmm.
weekend, my mom and I are at her house, and my mom's drinking coffee, and I'm over here playing or with the books or whatever it was. And so
Mm-hmm.
the lady proceeds to tell me that I should not be doing that, and that, boys don't put on girls' clothes. And then
Mm.
my mom didn't say anything. My mom was just there. And so, like, this was a pattern in my life where I had to speak up and tell my mom, like, hey, don't just sit there, say something. And
Right.
she wouldn't. Like, there was no protector in my life, unfortunately. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's really scary and sad. Um,
Yeah.
and, and so, like, moving forward, like when my brother's older and my dad has finally moved in with us because my grandma had passed, and so
Mm-hmm.
so my dad could move in, um, and so he
Mm-hmm.
would go to the house or whatever. I remember one time when my brother was beating up my sister or his
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend wife, and one of
Mm.
them was on the ground. It was outside. And then my dad was just watching there. I think my mom wanted to stop it. She was trying to get in the
Mm-hmm.
middle. But my dad was just standing there, and I had to tell him, say, "Hey, do something! Like, go stop
Right.
it!" And he would look at me, and then like he would go, finally get in the middle. But then, of course, I don't know if he was scared or like my brother would bring him up or whatever. But those were the instances where like I had to ask for like someone to protect me. I
Yeah,
needed to
you
ask for
had to
help.
be, you unfortunately had to be the adult as the child. Yeah, that's definitely, a rough thing to go through. I mean, besides the abuse.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. Um,
Yeah.
and so let me go back to like a couple years ago with that same CSAT. What we concluded was that my dad definitely had PTSD. So something
Okay.
traumatizing might have happened in his childhood, adolescence, but he was also in California and he had been arrested for doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing, namely drugs,
Okay.
right? And so
Okay.
he was in San Quentin, from what I remember. He was in San Quentin, and
Mm-hmm.
supposedly he was a shot caller, right? So he was,
Okay.
calling the shots, doing whatever in San Quentin. This is San Quentin. And so when I
Yeah.
was talking to my therapist, he was like, Ricky, could it be, could you open your mind to say that your dad might have been traumatized from his childhood, adolescence, maybe in San Quentin, that he could
Mm-hmm.
not put himself in a position to harm those he loved? So he would
Mm-hmm.
freeze up because if he did those things in San Quentin and he carried this to his life, he would be afraid to call some shots against his family members. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's why he was frozen and he would not intervene. At that
Right.
point, like 3 or 4 years ago, is when I started like forgiving my dad, for like not
Mm-hmm.
intervening in those times. Um,
Right.
and so like now as I'm getting older, I remember my sister and my sister-in-law were outside, and I had been on three-way. This is when like we had the phones with like the long cord, and you could like
Yeah.
eavesdrop on,
Of
yeah, with the
course.
two phones, right?
I
You cover
remember
it.
that well. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so I was on my phone with one of my good friends, and he and I liked the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
I was maybe 13, 14.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about him, and then we hung up, and I went outside, and I could feel like them looking at me. And so I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "What's up?" And he was like, "Well, are you a faggot or this or that, whatever?" And he was like, "You're not supposed to be that."
Right.
And then even my sister-in-law was like, "No, that's not right, Ricky." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." So like, it's a
Right.
shame that I was imprinted with from an early age. Like I couldn't be myself. I couldn't be gay.
Yeah.
I couldn't talk properly. I couldn't
Right.
walk properly. So as a youngster, I had to
Yeah.
practice how to walk, how to talk right, and how to
Right.
like watch my voice
Yeah.
inflection, how to like
Hey,
watch the way I
hey,
drank
bro. Hey, bro.
coffee. Yes,
Yeah. Right.
even the way I drank something. If
Yeah.
I had a cup of coffee or tea, for some reason I would
Right.
lift my pinky, and then my brother would say, "No, you look like a faggot." So I had to learn not to drink like that.
Right.
And it was
Wow.
just like, damn, like I can't get a break. Um,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
there was an instance when like my mom was on the phone calling customer service or something. Um, And my mom spoke English, but she just wanted me to deal with it. And
Mm-hmm.
as I was speaking English to like the lady, my brother was like, "You
Mm-hmm.
effing faggot," and this and that, and like you sound like a girl, and I was like, "Oh my god."
Mm.
Um, Now the other thing that happens, and I'm talking a lot of like I've been through a lot of therapy. I'm not a therapist, but now I
Yeah.
know terminology. Now I know like what had happened and all this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about enmeshment. So
Okay.
that means like essentially I take the role of my father and I like
Mm-hmm.
marry one of my parents. So I'll take the role, right? And I become the
Mm-hmm.
elder, the spouse, whatever it is.
Right.
And it can happen with like, a caretaker or grandma, even an older sibling, something like that, right? But with my mom,
Mm-hmm.
I would inject her insulin. She was diabetic.
Okay.
I would kind of like soothe her if she was crying or if she was like
Mm-hmm.
going through something or sad because of my brothers or sisters or whatever. Um, and so I would soothe her instead of her soothing me, right? And protecting
Right.
me, I'm over here soothing her. So I'm taking the role of my
Right.
father. So I would shoot the
Sure.
insulin and then I would take her to church. I would drive her to church. I was like maybe 14 years old, I think, 15 years
Mm.
old. And I had no
Mm-hmm.
license. I would drive her to church and then I would go eat. I did enjoy it though, because he was like
Mm-hmm.
mommy and Ricky time. So I would drive her to church and
Sure.
we'd go to Sirloin Stockade afterwards. And that was pretty cool.
Right.
Um, so now let's get into like the substance. So
Okay.
well, going back a little, my okay, so my issues, it's like yeah, the substance addiction, but I also have the process issues. The very first thing that I
Okay.
medicated with was food. So I
Mm-hmm.
have a
Okay.
relationship with food right now. So like when I was little, my grandma would feed us like veggies, right, and something healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
when she passed, somehow in third grade, I remember third grade, I started gaining weight. Third and then fourth, I
Okay.
definitely was a little bigger, and so then
Mm-hmm.
that was the beginning of the yo-yo. Um, so fast forward a few years, and then I remember seeing. I remember when I was little, I was in my dad's
Mm-hmm.
house, and he and his
Mm-hmm.
friends were sitting around the table. I was like maybe 8, and they were playing dominoes, and they all had beers, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Oh, those are the guys. Those are the guys. I'm going to be one of the guys. I'm straight, and I'm going to prove it to my dad, I'm gonna prove it to myself that
Right.
I'm straight." So what does little Ricky
Sure.
do? He goes over there, and I tell my dad, "Hey, pour me a beer, whatever." And he was like, "No, what are you thinking?" I was like, no, I'm a man. I can take it. He was like, you're not gonna like it. It tastes gross. It's nasty. I said, why are you drinking it?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I insisted, and he poured me just a little bit. And then he said, if I
Mm-hmm.
pour it, you're gonna have to drink it regardless. I was like, sure, sure, I'll do it.
Right.
So I took a sip. I spit it out. I started crying because he was telling me. And then my
Mm-hmm.
mom, at that point, she did intervene and pulled me away. But at that
Right.
point, I swore I would never touch beer because it tasted so nasty, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So, I hated beer. And I also saw like my neighbor's dad beat up the wife when he was drunk. And so like
Oh,
it's like,
okay. So
the
there was
book
that.
says,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like the one of the books that I read says that,
Uh-huh.
like we saw the prejudices and we still did it, anyway. Um,
Right.
yeah, so then in high school, I decided to like date like one of the hottest girls because I wanted to compensate for my sexuality. I could prove to myself that I could get this girl that was hot or pretty. So essentially,
Right.
I essentially used her to make myself feel better, right?
Right.
So I was
And this
closeted.
whole time you're cognitively like in your head you know that you're gay
Oh,
and you're
oh my
not
God.
attracted to yeah, so you're doing this to I mean for acceptance.
Yeah.
Since everybody tells you what you are is bad, that maybe, you're doing that just because, oh, hey, here's my shot to be received well by everyone else, the
Right.
people that you care about that should love you regardless.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's true.
yeah.
At this point, I knew I was gay. I had already messed around with men, or
Yeah.
people my age. And
Right.
so at that point, I also started going to Nuevo Laredo because at that point I was maybe 13, 14. And we would go
Mhm.
to Nuevo Laredo with $5. we could drink all we could drink,
Right.
on the weekends,
Right.
or
Yeah.
maybe $15 or maybe $20. I remember when the beers,
Mm-hmm.
the Dos Equis and the Coronas, they were like, am I joking? I want to say they were like 25 cents at times on the weekend.
Yeah.
Maybe I
Sure.
might be wrong, but that's what I
Right.
remember, or maybe $1. But they were
Right.
they were pretty cheap. But remember, I don't
Right.
like beer, right? So the first time I drank, it was a bourbon and Coke, I think it was, and that
Okay.
first night I blacked out.
Ah,
But what that did was
obviously you
it.
like them.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Hold on. At that point,
Right.
it loosened me up. It allowed me to just relax for a little bit and try to have fun,
Yeah.
even though I was kind of still was reserved, but kind of loosen
Mm,
up a little bit. So then,
right.
like, fast forward, I'm still like, I'm blacking out, since the very beginning. So I was like, well, how can I enjoy like a buzz? How can I get a buzz? So what does
Mm,
a good alcoholic do, right? What I
mm-hmm.
did is I tricked my mind, and this is the power of the mind, um, into liking beer through micheladas. And I mean,
Right.
now
Yeah.
we
Sure.
know we know what those are. They were big back in the day, way before it became popular. So it's like Worcestershire sauce and lime and ice and some chili powder and like the beer, right?
Right. They make beer not taste like ass.
Yes. So then I would drink those.
Right.
Ultimately, I took off the training wheels. I let that away, and now I'm in love with beer. So then that started
Right.
that relationship with beer. Um,
Okay.
Now, fast forward a few years, I, okay, I kind of knew that I was like not necessarily a drug addict, but I knew that I loved to have fun. I knew that I loved clubbing. So I am about to go to university, right? And so I did not go to
Mm-hmm.
UT because I knew that if I had gone, or that I would go, that I would be on 6th Street every day or every weekend, and
Oh
that
yeah.
I might flunk out. So, unbeknownst to me, I decided to apply for A&M, and I went to A&M, and well, lo and behold, there was a lot of alcohol there. Uh, you know, every
Imagine
single
that
night.
another college with alcohol.
I didn't know any better.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so I went there. Obviously, I'm still closeted. I go
Mm,
there, and I liked it. Oh, on the way there.
mm,
But at some point in my time, I think it was like the summer right before A&M. And
right.
I finally came out officially to my sister, my oldest sister. And
Okay.
she says, well, Ricky, the Bible says, that's not right, and that you can't be that. And then
Right.
what she did, she told my cousin, who I guess had been a lesbian or something like that. But it was my
Okay.
cousin who drove me from San Antonio, because my sister drove me to San Antonio. She drove me from the
Mm-hmm.
cousin drove me from San Antonio to A&M. On the way there, she says,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, Ricky, your sister told me that you were gay. I don't know if she said I battled with that or something, but she joined the Exodus group.
Right.
The Exodus was a
Okay.
reformed gay movement that has been uh dismembered or whatever. It's no longer in. They finally admitted that that therapy, pray the gay away, doesn't work. So like it's non-existent.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that
Right.
cousin did tell me that I should go there. That they would help me.
Mm-hmm.
But so I didn't go. Anyway, so I'm at A&M in the closet. So I want to be a part of, right, and I want to be like masculine, and I'm still closeted. So I joined the Corps Cadets. And that's
Okay.
the ROTC program at A&M. It's like a big deal.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, that's
yeah, I
their
joined.
whole. That's one of their whole main things. There is the core.
Yeah, it's this big. I love it. It's a great camaraderie. I love my buddies,
Right.
uh, and it's a great environment. I got to meet a lot of interesting people.
Mm-hmm.
But I could not handle it. The working out, whatever. It was a lot of fear again, because it was like the way the upperclassmen would treat the freshmen. It was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
intimidation, and I guess in my
Ah.
psyche, it scared me. I guess subconsciously it scared me from like when I was growing up, and so like the yelling and
Mm.
the do this and do that. So my
Yeah.
anxiety, and I quit.
Yeah.
But I regretted that. So my
Mm-hmm.
sophomore year, I rejoined the same outfit
Mm-hmm.
that I had been in the previous year. So my buddies, my freshman year, were now the sophomores who were
Mm-hmm.
the ones, not hazy, but the ones that were over the freshmen. Anyway, so I had it the
Right.
worst in there. And I was like, the straight guy, the masculine guy. And so I could take them being mean to me. And they were out for revenge because,
Mm.
um, I left them. I left them. And so like
Right.
they were out to get
Yeah.
me. And I withstood that. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't necessarily that I thought I deserved it. It was more
Mm-hmm.
like I approved to myself and to others that I could take it like a man. That was one
Sure.
of the examples. Um,
Okay.
there's what I tried weed for the first time.
Okay.
There's where I tried cocaine for the first time, crystal
Mm-hmm.
meth for the first time, acid, mushrooms.
Okay.
I remember my first time, and this was the love of my life. I remember the
Mm-hmm.
first time my best friend, my buddy in the Corps Cadets,
Mm-hmm.
I don't maybe I shouldn't be saying that. But anyway, so he gave me my first taste
Well,
of it. I know. He had given me
right.
some the previous week. He had like offered some. I was like, no, 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 I don't do that.
Right.
But then
When you're
I was
talking some, what is the
substance.
substance?
It's cocaine.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
so
cocaine.
then,
Okay.
yeah, so then he was like, come on, try it. I was like, no, no, no. Anyway, so like, I'm
Right.
curious. I was like, okay, go ahead. So I pretended like I was going to. So I got the key bump and I came
Mm-hmm.
to the mirror away from him. And then I just,
Right.
threw it on the ground, on the floor, and I stepped on it. And then I
Right.
told him, oh, that was so good, this and that. I was like, oh, it makes me feel great.
Right.
I kind of like, I kind of like tried remembering what people would say, what I saw in the movies, because,
Right.
little rewind, the double life that addicts or alcoholics live. In high school, I was in the band, I was an honor student, I was like a really good academic. But in high
Mm-hmm.
school, I was in the band and I was straight A student. However, after school, I would sell cocaine, but only to
Right.
those people,
Right.
the ones I
Mm-hmm.
deemed or judged, like, oh, they're far gone, right? I wouldn't
Right.
sell to
Yeah. Yeah.
people my
Yeah.
age. I wouldn't sell to people whom I thought were still good. Um, anyway, so I had done that. Eventually, I stopped. But so
Right.
then going back to the A&M thing. So then my buddy, the following weekend, like he surprises me. He was like, "Hey, Ricky, close your eyes and this and that." I was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" Fast forward, he puts something on the desk. He goes, "Hey, since you like this so much, I'm going to give you a present, and I'm sure you're going to like it." So I'm kind of feeling weird, and so I opened my eyes, and he had gotten me some drugs, some cocaine. And
Mm-hmm.
when I finally did it, I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Where have you been all my life?" It felt so
Right.
good. I
Okay.
fell in love with cocaine at that
And
point.
but the crazy thing is that you're already selling it like early on in high school, but you never really tried it then
No.
until so fast forward what 4 years, 3 years, 2 years later,
Right, right.
and then
I
you
think
tried. Oh, okay.
yeah, I think I already knew that I had an addictive personality.
Right.
Also,
So
I
you
think it
were
was like
trying to kind of avoid it, maybe. Yeah.
right. Also, I think I kind of knew better. In elementary, I had been part of this committee called CASA, which is a committee against substance abuse. That was in
Mm.
elementary. I was in that club, and so I kind of like knew all that. Um, and so now when he gives it to me, that's where I start. That with my love
Mm.
with cocaine. Um,
Right.
so it had been the eating disorder, and it
Mm-hmm.
had been the love addiction for me. It's a process addiction. The love was
Right.
I would fantasize about moving somewhere else, like moving to Paris or living in Corpus Christi or living in some other city that's
Mm-hmm.
not home. I would
Okay.
escape with all these thoughts, right? Sometimes I would like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I wish this guy would come, and fall in love with me, and then we can leave, and we could like marry and travel the world. I had all these fantasies because I was blocking the violence and the things, the fear that were at home. So that was my love
Yeah.
addiction. And then the
Yeah.
sex addiction was there before the substances. The sex addiction
Mm-hmm.
was there, like high school. I'm doing things with with whatever, um, and then at A&M, I finally get into the substances. Um,
Mm.
so then I graduated A&M. I went to Europe for a little bit and did some more drugs. Came back to
Okay.
Dallas, and oh my God, Dallas was the and it was your time. It was your time. Lizard Lounge, Club
Right.
One, Club Seven, Mink.
Right.
Oh
Yeah.
yes. Anyway, those were
But
some
hey,
fun times.
guess what? They had drugs then.
Yeah, you think
Right.
those were the good ones. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Right.
No,
Yeah. Well, that was before fentanyl, but that's a whole other subject. Yeah.
no, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
well, there's a story with that too. But yeah. So anyway, so it's the end of the club kid craze, right? You know, the club one was
Right.
their
I
like their
remember that well.
headquarters.
Yeah.
And so
Hmm.
like that was so much fun, like dressing up every so often. Like for me, I wasn't part of it, but like people dressed up. And
Right.
it was like a party every day. I at that point I hung out with other gay men, and we partied and did a lot of drugs. Whether it was the
Sure.
club drugs, so ketamine, ecstasy, coke, meth, whatever.
Cocaine. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The trail mix. And, anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was I was clubbing the majority of the week and the drugs and this
Hmm.
and that. Fast forward a few years, I remember I had been smoking at this point, crack cocaine for a number of years, on and off. At this point,
Okay.
I have been smoking every day
How
for
old
like a
are
number.
you at this time? Like, and you're talking mid '90s to late '90s?
Okay, at this point, no. I graduated A&M in 2000, so I'm here
Oh,
in
okay.
Dallas at
So
this point,
early to. Oh, gotcha.
early
Early
2000s.
2000s. Okay.
And yeah, when I was at A&M, we would go to Houston and come to Dallas. But to
Sure.
get away and actually come with other gay people, because I couldn't do it in College Station,
Hmm.
right? Because I was closeted.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
so I did all of that. I remember I couldn't stop smoking crack. I remember
Mm.
crossing JR's on Cedar Springs,
Hmm.
stand in the
Sure.
middle of Cedar Springs, right before I get to the what was a coffee shop, Crossroads, and I
Okay.
stood in the middle. I was like, holy crap, I think I've done it. I've crossed it. I was like, I'm not being an addict. I can't stop. At
Mm.
that point, I thought that an addict was that person on the street, that homeless person. I didn't know
Hmm.
that the addict was how the drugs affected us, right?
Right.
According to the book, it's like when you take something you can't stop. You're probably one of us,
Hmm.
on your own
Sure.
volition. Um, and at that point, that was that. In
Yeah.
terms of traumas, like I remember.
Well, hey, let's pause right there. I'm gonna throw
Okay.
to commercial, and we'll be right back.
Are you an old fool who's so cool like us? Funky Gold is a network of skilled and hardworking DFW DJs over 40. We gather to create a mutually supportive environment for all members who are doing big things. Our DJs are leaders in the community who bring special skills and opportunities to share. We strive for professionalism in the music business, and we have hearts of gold. Not to mention we have the coolest swag and the funkiest headquarters. If you're interested in learning more about joining the crew, connect with us on Instagram, YouTube, or Gmail at Funky Gold Network.
All right, and that is our new sponsor, Funky Gold Network. Check them out. Lots of good people. Also, got some new music out, and here that is. All right, and that's some of the new stuff out. Actually, it's doing really well, and we are excited. We got some support from Steve Aoki, and we also just hit 1 million streams on Spotify, so we're stoked about that. If you could, be sure follow Kelly Reverb on Spotify, and then while you're there, follow the podcast, This Pink Cloud, because, they're both good, and it's good stuff. Anyway, but okay, so back. I'm like, dude, I couldn't stop, dude. Like I was like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. But
It just keeps
let's
going.
pick up let's pick up to where you are. So the PTSD reared
Oh,
its head again. So
yeah. I'm loving your stuff on Instagram, by the way. I listen
oh,
to it all the
thank
time.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
so anyway, I'm all over the place, but I've been through so many traumatic experiences or events. Anyway, well, there was one time when I rolled over. It was my friend. We were coming from San Antonio to A&M, and I think it was one of the first Firestone, Bridgestone treads coming off.
Okay.
And so a fishtailed spun, 4 or 5 times in the medium, but nothing happened to either one of us. Anyway,
Okay.
I don't know why I said it, but it just came to mind. Anyway, so at that point, remember I'm clubbing every night, almost every night. But at some
Mm-hmm.
point in time, I crossed the line where it was no longer the foot long lines of meth, or it was no longer like
Mm-hmm.
the pea bumps of ketamine, or like a lot of crack or a lot of cocaine. It was no longer that, because at some point I crossed the line to where even like maybe a little bit like this, like right here, a little bit like that
Mm-hmm.
size of
Mm-hmm.
meth, of crack, of cocaine, that would
Right.
spin me out of control. I'm way beyond the shadow, people, way beyond. It's now about like
Right.
I'm in the floor, middle of the room.
You've already taken your VCR apart
Yes.
and disassembled every household item that you could find to see how it worked.
It's horrible. Anyway, yeah, so I was in the middle of the floor, covered up with a sheet. My friends have left me because I'm that person that has
Oh
that
yeah,
negative
dude. Ricky's a
vibe energy.
fucking wreck, dude. Who wants to hang out with Ricky tonight and babysit him?
Exactly. So they would leave
Yeah,
me with
right.
like my own
Yeah.
drugs, and I would just do them. But I would I was there full of fear, hearing voices, hearing steps. I have a knife with me. I'm on the floor. And then I calm down a little bit, and I run to the bathroom. I hit the pipe one more time, and then I do it all over again. Go in the middle of the floor, covered up with a knife,
Right.
was scared as hell, and I go back and do it again. Anyway, it was like that bad. It was like the shadow people
Uh-huh.
looking out the blinds. That was a little fun to me. But all along,
Mm-hmm.
as things
Right.
progressed, I was like, oh, I'm never going to be that guy. Oh, I'm never going to be that guy. Oh, I'm never going to be that guy.
Sure.
And I became that guy. The shadow people,
Mm.
the knife thing, the blotting out everything where no light comes in, all of that. I became that. Of
Mm.
course, I lost my car. I was living in an apartment where like the clothes were in my bed. Whatever.
Well,
That comes.
I have a question. So, how were you funding the the habit?
I did have pretty good jobs. I couldn't
Okay.
maintain them after a while. I would like go from
Mm-hmm.
job to job, but I was a good addict in the sense that I funded it myself, but I would also hang out with one of my besties, and I would do
Mm-hmm.
his, and then I would
Oh.
go and do mine, right?
Okay.
So that, and then I have
And was he cool? Was he cool with that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. He was, yeah. It
Okay.
was just like a free for all, you know.
All right.
Um, and then I remember there was another friend of ours. He and I would get into like into like arguments because we were fighting over this guy's drugs. It wasn't ours,
Right.
but we were fighting over. It was so weird.
Right.
Anyway,
Wow.
that's when they kind of still worked. But
Mm-hmm.
then I've had issues. I had like a heart issue, and it was a murmur. It was one time I was in the hospital for a checkup, and the
Mm-hmm.
nurse is listening. She was like, "Can I ask you a question?" I was like, "Sure." She was, "How long have you been doing drugs?" I was like, "What?" She goes, "Don't lie to me. I know you've done drugs. Your heart had some kind of murmur or something." She was like, "I can
Right.
tell that you've been on drugs." And so I told her.
Right.
It was like one of the instances where like, but yeah, heart issues, my liver was messed up, my nose, divided septum, all that stuff was messed up.
Mm.
I can't remember what other issues I've got. And then, I've got one major one, and it's just like, I can't. There's just so much, right? So there's more trauma, on top of trauma, on
Yeah.
top of trauma. Um, Anyway, so I've done that. Let me see, we got, okay. So, I'm gonna fast forward, all right? And so like at this point, I'm still in Dallas, and I'm thinking
And
that
what year? Give me a year.
This was in 2000, still 2005, 2006.
Okay. All
And
right.
2003 is when I first decided, well, not decided, that's when I first wanted to stop drinking and drugging, but I could not. From
Okay.
2003, it wasn't until 2009 that went
Mm-hmm.
into my first 12-step meeting. Um,
Okay.
but then I was like, oh, I'm gonna stay in here, and if I make it through New Year's Eve, I'll stay sober for the rest
Right.
of my life, right? But I could
Yeah.
not, yeah, I could not look at anyone in the eyes. I was so uncomfortable. I wouldn't talk. Obviously, I didn't get
Mm.
someone to take me through the step work, and so lo and
Right.
behold, I went back out.
Yeah.
But wait, this is in 2010. Now in 2006, I am blaming my friend who gives me the drugs that it's his fault
Mm.
that I can't
Right.
stop using. It's always someone else's fault that I can't stop using, right?
Sure.
So
Sure. Of
then
course.
so then I got a dog, thinking that if a dog who loved me and I could take care of and this and
Right.
that would keep me
Yeah. That
sober,
gives you a
right?
purpose. Yeah. Right.
Oh,
Of
I feel so
course.
bad. I feel so
Yeah.
bad. I would leave him at the apartment by himself. I would leave him
Mm.
crated by
Yeah.
himself. I'd come. He was a
Yeah.
puppy, and he would be soiled when I got back, and I just felt really bad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Sure.
yeah. Anyway, so then I'm thinking that I have to get away from Dallas because it's Dallas. It's the
It's my
reason I'm
location.
using.
It's my
Yes. The
location. Right. Yeah.
exact reason I'm using is because I'm clubbing every day. I can't stop, and it's just Dallas. So let me get away. And I was like, okay, so where can I go, and who can keep me sober? So I decide that I'm gonna move to Laredo. I was like, no, I'm not moving to Laredo. I was like, my family's there. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna move to San Antonio because I'm close enough, yet far enough from my
Mm-hmm.
family. Because I'm thinking that
Right.
even though my family was so horrible to me, that they can keep me sober, that I will be respectful enough for them to keep me sober, right? So that didn't
Sure.
work. I was in San Antonio. I might have visited Laredo, or they might have visited me. I don't know, maybe a total of 4 times. But
Mm-hmm.
the following year, I'm there, and I become. At this point, I decided to become a teacher. I take the course into this and that, and I'm subbing there in San Antonio. And then my friend says, Ricky, you can't stop drugging in San Antonio. Why don't you move to Austin? It's a fresh start. You can be a teacher and this and that. And I was like, that's a great
Mm-hmm.
idea. I'll go to Austin, fresh
Right.
start. No one knows me. I don't know anyone. I'm not going to do it. And I will be working for the state, so to speak. I would not
Right.
dare cross that line. I can't, because either I lose my
Mm-hmm.
license, or they can arrest me or send me somewhere so I can stop. So I'm not going to do
Right.
that. So I moved to Austin, and of course, I'm still drinking. I'm still drugging. Horrible. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still doing that. Anyway, so at some point, I decide to come into the rooms because the guy who had given me the free drugs all along, he had come into the 12-step program, and he would
Okay.
be dry for a number of months. And that's all I wanted. I wanted one day off
Right.
where I
You just
couldn't,
wanted to like dial it back some.
just a little
You
bit.
know, I mean, you just wanted to have a manageable drug habit.
And so I went into the rooms, and that didn't work. When I came in the second time,
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do the same thing, but there was this guy who, at the third meeting, he asked me if I was done for good and for all, and it was like, "What does that
Mm-hmm.
mean?" Anyway, he took me through the step work. I stayed sober for a number of years. I had a
Okay.
profound experience with the step work.
So
Happy.
you had your what they call the spiritual awakening.
Yes, and it had the pink
Right.
cloud for a number of years, right?
Right.
So let me tell you
Right.
that.
Sure.
That was so cool. I was meditating like every day, morning and sometimes night, sometimes during the day. My barometer was
Mhm.
the
And
traffic.
there, just so you know, there is something to be said for that when you are vigilant about your own sobriety. By the way, just from personal experience, because once you lose that part in your recovery step, then you have a tendency to forget,
Hmm.
and then Ricky and the drug problems start to come into the front again, and I mean, I
Yeah,
know that personally. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So I had a profound experience for about 18 months, 2 years, maybe 3 years. I don't remember now.
Hmm.
It was like a
Hmm.
perpetual like happiness, like an eternal joy, where like there was nothing you said or did that would affect me. Like whether it's a negative thing or
Right.
a positive thing, like I just took it with a grain of salt. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I paid it no attention. I would, hear it, let it go. And there was a time when my best friend at that point, we had the same sponsor. And at one point, he
Mm.
was like, Ricky, it was like, it's been 18 months or whatever it was. And you're still on this pink cloud. When are you coming down? And I was like, hey, I'm just doing what the book suggests. You too can have this
Right.
experience because we have the same sponsor. If you only do
Right.
what the book suggests, you too can have what I have, right? Anyway,
Right. Sure.
so at that point, I had a profound experience I wanted to share with everyone. My first few months, I didn't have many friends because I was still like in my shell. At this point in time, I'm really comfortable with myself. I've yeah,
Hold
I
on.
came
It's
out.
hard. It's hold on. It's hard to imagine Ricky with a shell.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude,
Oh
I have
my God.
always known Ricky. You know,
Yeah, I could not. Like I said, I
it's
was
hard
really
to
quiet.
imagine you as a wallflower.
Oh
You
my
know?
God, I've been there. It's kind of like when
Yeah.
you're like really paranoid in the corner and just like afraid of everyone just looking. That's the way I was, just
Hmm.
quiet.
Okay.
But
All right.
so when I go and I have this profound experience, I would go to like a meeting. There was this guy one time. It was like Ricky, because I'm like right. I went from like really
Mm-hmm.
quiet to like the way I am now, like a little more because through meditation, right? And so it was like
Mm-hmm.
Ricky. It was like you're at like in a zero in a scale from 0 to 10. You're at a 20. I need you at a 3. And it
Right.
kind of hurt my, at that point, it did hurt my feelings because I was too
Okay.
much for him. I was too happy for him. He was still kind of sad. I hadn't gone through the step work for this and that.
Mm.
Anyway, so I want to help people.
Sure.
I took so many people through the step work for a number of years, and that's it was part of my life. It was a huge part of my life, and
Right.
I wanted to start sober living, but uh, I didn't have the money. I didn't know how. I didn't know how to market, and so like I had all these excuses
Right.
to where at some point I had been at this other guy's house. We were playing poker, I think it was, and every
Mm-hmm.
year, for some reason, like there, I would have make money. I would have like tens of thousands of dollars saved up, and I would spend it, and then I would save it up, and then the
Mm-hmm.
next year, and I would spend it, and then again, it was kind of like the same number, a round number,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm at this
Mm-hmm.
poker game, and my friend, she and I are talking, and she was like, "Ricky." I was like, what? It was like, you need to hold your end of the bargain. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, God is giving you the exact same number, a roundabout, for you to do what you said you would do, and you're not doing it. Don't you see
Mm-hmm.
that God is telling you to do it? And so, like, I paid it no
Right.
mind. So lo and
Mm-hmm.
behold, I at some point get depressed. There's so much, so I decide to escape once again. So I leave Austin. I moved to San Antonio. I mean, I moved to Mexico for a year and a half. I'm still sober, at this point in time. And then I have a great experience. I travel all over. I went to Cuba, Guatemala, Peru,
Mm-hmm.
obviously Mexico. It was great. It was awesome. Came
Right.
back,
Yeah.
and and Mexico. I told God, "Hey God, send me wherever you want. I'm gonna do whatever it is that you need me to do because I am
Mm-hmm.
surrendering." So I was like, "I'm
Okay.
finding an open sober living. Just send me where you want me." And so I had to research Asheville, I researched Chicago, I researched New Orleans, I researched Portland, and I think maybe even
Mm-hmm.
Phoenix. But
Mm-hmm.
with the meditation, Dallas kept popping in my head. I was like, oh no, I'm not moving to
Okay.
Dallas. And then I was like, I would pray and I would meditate. I was like, Dallas. I was like, no, why? And then so I thought God was wrong. And so
Right.
yes. Ultimately, I was like, okay, yeah, screw it. I'm gonna go to Dallas, God,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Anyway, fast forward, I get here. I wanna, finally, I'm gonna start sober living because that's what God wants me to do. I had told God back when I was in Austin that I would start sober living. So I get
Mm-hmm.
here and it's not panning out. I don't have any money. I'm making excuses at this point in time. I spent it all in Mexico and Cuba and Peru. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
any. So I'm talking to my sponsor at that time. May he rest in peace. And I finally get a credit card with like maybe $25,000 to $30,000. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay. I was like, I have this money. I'm going to open a restaurant. And he was like, Ricky, wait. Weren't you just telling me that you need to open sober
Right.
living? I was like, no, but I need to make the money so that I can open sober living. It was no, Ricky.
Right.
What do you think? You think God wants you to open a restaurant or help his people, help his children. I was like, well, come on. If you put it that way, help his children, right? So
Right.
I ultimately, I went ahead and decided I'm going to open sober living, uh, meet
Mm-hmm.
up with, a guy from Austin. And then I presented to a guy here in town. And that was a beautiful experience. Like, I asked
Right.
him, we were talking because he was going to open his sober living with someone else and his didn't pan out. And so I asked him, hey, why don't you join us?
And what year was this? Were we talking?
This is 2000. Well, okay, so 2016, because we opened in 2017. It might have been 2016,
Okay.
towards the end of it,
Okay.
or maybe at the beginning of 2017.
Okay.
Anyway, so we were
And that
at
and
a
that
one.
was what and that was what sober living, or do you want to name that or no?
No, no, let's not name it. Just keep it
Okay.
general.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so we were at a fellowship, and afterwards, at a meeting, and afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
we're just talking. I was like, "Hey, why don't you just join me in doing this?" And my jaw, and right, I was like, what?" And he looked at me, and or his jaw dropped, and my jaw dropped. I was like, "Did you mean that?" I was like, "I
Right.
guess." I was like, "It just rolled out." I was like, "I
Yeah.
guess God wants me to wants you to partner up with me." Anyway,
Right.
so we started that sober living with my credit card. We bought the
Mm-hmm.
furniture, and we bought the supplies, and we went to, like, Walmart, but all the comforters and all the stuff. We had another lady who
Right.
had started her sober living, and she gave us like the list of what to buy, and it was great. So we did it. Um, and what the 12 steps did for me was peel the onion. It allowed me to
Mm-hmm.
start looking at my issues, right? And it was too slow,
Mm-hmm.
or I didn't use the 12 steps further to get all
Mm-hmm.
that junk that I had in me, right? So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna fast forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a successful it was a very
Well, I want to
successful,
say
very
I want to say something real quick about the 12 steps and why
sure.
people like it kind of gets mystified, and maybe you can join in on this. But basically, it's admitting that you're powerless over this substance, right?
You're
And
right.
giving it to your higher power, whatever that might be, and that's the part that turns some people off.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But then beyond that, it's the rest of the steps are basically to deal with that trauma that is causing you to use or to
Right.
suppress those feelings, and then basically you make amends for whatever fires you might have caused, and
Sure.
then you pay it forward so you stay out of self. And
Yeah.
that is in a nutshell, that is the 12-step program.
Right. Right.
Super cliff notes. But the thing is sometimes people don't always fully work those steps, or sometimes, like, I mean, for example, with you, I mean, you could have been on those steps for a long time,
Mhm.
because of the level of trauma that you went through and the level of guilt, that you took on for being who you were,
No
you know.
shame. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
And
just my side note there.
to those who are afraid or turned off by the God thing,
Yeah.
screw
Right.
it.
Right.
When I first came
Yeah.
into the rooms, I saw that word God, God, God. I was like, oh my God, I want nothing to do with God because
Right.
God hates me. I'm going to
Right.
burn this and that. So that's when I went
Sure.
back out. The God thing scared me. The drugs scared me right back
Mm.
in. I couldn't care less what God was or
Right.
whatever. I just wanted to get sober. I went through the 12 steps, and then I had an experience with God. And I created my conception
Mm.
along the way, so on and so forth. Anyway, so we started the sober living. And the reason I knew at that point that it was for that God wanted me here was because at that point there were others that were charging $1,500 and above just for a bed.
Right.
And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is what God wants me to do. Because the first day I got here, I researched all that, and that was the pricing.
Right.
And so we started ours at 750. It was
Mm-hmm.
the least expensive one, and so that created some
Right.
competition, and it made those $1,500 ones offer additional services so that people would
Mm-hmm.
keep going to them. Anyway, and then
Right.
we increased it. Um, anyway, so fast forward, I still haven't dealt with my trauma, and then I have my love addiction and my sex addiction. I'm following this active drug addict. He's on the street. He's sober. He's on the street, and so I'm obsessed that my love addiction is taking off. Thinking that if I keep this sober, subconsciously, if I keep him
Mm-hmm.
sober, he's gonna love me. He's not gonna leave me, right?
Mm.
And
Right.
the more I
I
thought
can
about
fix
that,
him. I can fix him
yes,
kind of
because he's
thing.
gonna be
Yeah.
grateful and appreciate me, right? So
Mm-hmm.
then,
Right.
at that point in time, it's not enough. I'm literally exhausted and tired, and I tell him, "You need to turn yourself in to the cops because he had an arrest warrant, or go to treatment. I can't do it anymore." A few days later,
Mm-hmm.
I relapsed. So I went to
Mm-hmm.
treatment for sex, love, and the substances. And that was the first
Mm-hmm.
time that I was told that I had a sex issue, and that was the first time I admitted I was a love addict and a sex addict.
Right.
I started looking at my trauma, my shame. I realized that my
Right.
caretaker was really my grandma. I was enmeshed with my
Right.
mom. I learned all about all this therapy.
Right. Well, and they what they call that is co-occurring.
Yes,
You know, they
exactly.
call it co-occurring because it's not, it's not just one thing. It's a myriad of things that
Right.
are causing you to react with substance use to bury whatever it is that's out there or that's
Right.
that's bothering you.
And that was
Yeah.
the first time that I knew about the eating disorder. I remember, and so that people know, just because I'm a little bigger, doesn't mean that
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an eating disorder. Because people perceive that it's bulimia and it's the other one, and that it's
Yeah.
skinny, and you have a food
Mm-hmm.
issue because you're skinny. I remember there were two of us. It was a guy and another guy and me in the group, and people look at us and smile. I was like, you don't have an eating
Right.
disorder. Look at you. I was like,
Sure.
but they didn't know we had the same relationship with food and the yo-yo and all of
Mm-hmm.
that that the people who were skinny had. It was the same. There's the same thing,
Yeah.
except just
Well, no, no,
on
no.
opposite
It's
ends.
it's like it's like the thing is when you have like bulimia,
Exactly.
it's basically you're binging and purging, but when you're binging, your body still takes on a massive amount of calories before you purge.
Hmm.
So it's like you don't have like the anorexia symptoms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, I was bigger. I had more weight on.
Sure.
Anyway, so then because of those issues, I started seeing a CSAT. I did somatic experience, which is where do you feel this or that or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
then I had like this pull towards EMDR, which is an eye
Okay.
thing, and it beats
Yeah.
left and right. It's wonderful. I
Yeah.
love that modality. That was a
Right.
game changer for my life. It allowed me
Yeah,
to
and
get
it's
through my
so
trauma.
it's EMDR,
Right,
correct?
right.
And it's
So
it's something I don't know what the acronym stands for, but it's eye movement
eye
something.
movement something since whatever, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Look it up.
EMDR,
It's
look it
called
up.
EMDR. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I went to treatment again to deal with more trauma. I was introduced to brain spotting, which is kind of similar, but it's only at one.
Okay.
Anyway, that's another modality. I was introduced to post-induction therapy, PIT, developed by PM Melody. I was introduced to
Mhm.
experiential therapy, where like you act it out and you move, it's kinesthetic, and kind of let it
Mhm.
out.
Mhm.
And then fast forward, I went to a treatment center in Arizona. It's a very famous one. I
Okay.
went there for a 1 week intensive, and that started my depression for like 2 or 3 years.
Mm.
And I continued
Well,
doing therapy.
but also, with the amount of drugs that you've ingested, you have serotonin issues, I mean, because you're used to having that. So, I mean, there's going to be depression that occurs when your brain's trying to right itself.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
So I was depressed. I did more trauma work. I just like 2 weeks ago, I did another 1 week intensive in Oklahoma. For anyone who
Mm-hmm.
wants some trauma therapy, it's free. There's a $500
Okay.
deposit, and it's a great. Oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
I've been through a lot of therapy. I can recommend this one. It's free. It's a $500 deposit. If at the end you want to donate the 500, donate a portion of it, or get it all back, you get it all back. It's a foundation.
Okay.
I love it. If you have questions, call me. I did some
Okay.
more work. I'm always doing therapy because it was great for me. I've gotten so much benefits out of therapy. I
Right.
want to say, my opinion, the 12 steps was too slow for me, and I had too much trauma to take care of it with the 12 steps. So I
Well,
had
the
to get.
thing is, so what I can say to that, and from hearing what you said and my expert opinion,
Mhm.
is that honestly, like I was saying, you're supposed to admit stuff to a person to speak about it, but then that person, aka your sponsor, is not your therapist. nor
Correct.
are they
Right.
qualified to, help you compartmentalize or process all the stuff you've done. There's like, I mean, they can, deal with some certain stuff, but then at some point you need the
Oh yeah.
pros,
No, and
and
then
I
yeah.
like, if I was sponsoring you, I would have said, Ricky, you got a lot going on. I can only handle so much and help you with so much. Love you, but you need to do
You
therapy
need help.
as well. Yeah, as well as walking through the steps.
Right. And what
Yeah.
and I know we're almost out of time, but I wanted to say the last thing
Yeah.
is that I was finally told that I was bipolar, not told, but diagnosed, whatever
Hmm.
it is, because
Yeah.
I'm in real estate now. And by the way, any people in recovery, if you want some real estate transaction, I give money back at closing. Anyway, people in
Okay.
recovery and teachers,
All right.
if you close with me, I'll give some money back at closing. Anyway, that's another thing.
Okay.
But what I was saying is I had a great month. Like in one May, I had a super great month. I was like going, selling a lot, selling a lot. And I went from
Right.
being super happy, super productive to like boom, overnight depressed. And I
Mm-hmm.
had already seen the best addictionologist here in Dallas, and we were trying to figure out if I was
Mm-hmm.
bipolar or not. And he had put me on like I think it was a mood stabilizer at that point. And when
Okay.
that
Yeah.
happened, that crash happened overnight, he said, "Well,
Mm-hmm.
I guess we have our answer." I was like, "What is that?" And he was like,
Mm-hmm.
"You're bipolar." But I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't seen it. My therapist hadn't seen it. My friends hadn't seen it. No one really saw it until we went through it. And I've been on medicine since, and it's helped me a lot.
Right.
So
Right.
for
Well,
those
and
people,
there's
yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I was just gonna say a lot of people like also see or feel shame in that diagnosis, like you're bipolar and that's bad. It's just like it's okay, and there are millions on millions of people diagnosed and undiagnosed
Oh,
with
and recovery.
that are bipolar. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's so much of it in recovery in the rooms.
Yeah. Hmm.
There's a lot of sex addiction. No one, not many know about the sex addiction, especially like if I go
Yeah.
to one fellowship in particular. There's many of us who cross the drugs with the sex, and they have no
Right.
idea they're sex addicts. The
Right.
bipolar
Well,
thing, screw
I
it.
mean, dude, let's just say CMA, dude. I mean, come on, dude. It's okay,
I
dude.
didn't say it. No,
Right. Yeah.
the last thing here, no, screw it. The stigma with bipolar or mental disorders, I don't give a rat's ass. If
Yeah.
I'm good on medicine, if I'm good accepting that I'm
Yeah.
bipolar, I'm better. I don't care what you think because I'm
Right.
happy. I myself, I'm relaxed, and
Right.
whatever it is, and I'm productive, making decent
Well, and
money.
you're the one. Look, that's the thing. Look, you're the one that's driving the bus for now. Okay, you're your own avatar, and you're driving the bus. And if medication helps you cope and deal with that, then there's no shame in that whatsoever. It's
Right.
just finding what works for you. If and that's the whole thing about the show is that if the 12 steps works for you, great, man. It works for millions of people. But if it doesn't, okay, there's cognitive behavioral therapy. There's like all the different things, EMDR, that you've talked about. And I mean, I think it's just a matter of finding what is a good fit for Ricky or for XYZ out in the audience that's listening. What works for you. I mean, nobody can tell you what works for you. And then
Exactly.
also another side note is I can't or you can't make somebody want recovery. They have to want it for themselves, and they
Hmm.
have to want a more stable lifestyle, and you have to want that. And that's something you can't do for that person.
Right.
It's free
Right.
will. It's free will, and it's got to be up to you to decide, hey, do I want to leave the shadow people behind, or do I want to live with them for the rest of my life and have no teeth,
Be free. Yes, I love being
Yeah,
free.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But man, well, that was a lot, dude. So, I appreciate your honesty. Obviously, how can people find you, A, for real estate needs, but then if somebody wants to reach out to you, I'm going to put it in the description, because I think you'll get a lot of people, a lot of response from this, of people wanting to reach out and maybe talk to you, about your experience, because you've really run the gambit of addiction or addictive type disorders, not only substance, sex, I mean, eating. I mean, yeah, you have a lot of the A's checked, what I mean?
I go to multiple fellowships.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
so how can they get a hold of you?
Okay, so so like, do you want me to list my telephone number, or do you want to write that? Or
No. Probably just like a social media DM type thing, or whatever.
Sure.
Or if or if they email address, or if they want to also reach out to you about housing.
I have a website. So they can contact me at rickyismyagent.com. So that's my email. My website is
Ricky, and that's RICKY at
rickyismyagent.com. Isn't it cool?
Okay. Cool.
Anyway, it's straightforward. So that's my that's my email address. My website is rickyismyagent.com. So they can reach me there. On Facebook, regular Facebook. I'm Ricky Vasquez. And I'm on there with the top 500 agents in North Texas. Kudos to God and kudos to the brokerage. So they can contact me. However, on Instagram, I am under Ricky's Jewels. And then I'm also on Ricky is my agent. Just a reminder for teachers and people in recovery, they get money back at closing from my commission. So an incentive.
Okay. All right, dude. Well, wow, man. That was a lot, man. I'm going to have to go get some therapy after this.
That's okay.
But I appreciate you coming on. And man, I mean, the early on stuff is, really hardcore, man. And it's, I'm glad that you've been able to deal with it, and that you're constantly, you're a work in progress. And, it's like not always a straight line. And as long as you don't give up, you can do great things like you're doing right now, man. You're thriving, and you've got the bipolar in check, and, good things are happening. So
it is what it is. Hey, I can choose to be a victim, or I can choose to be free,
There we go. I love it. Well, I appreciate you being on. Be sure and reach out to Ricky. And then if you can, be sure, subscribe, all that good stuff to the podcast. Also follow the music, Kelly Reverb. And then remember, kids, there is no magic pill for sobriety, because if there was, we would all take too many.